Welcome to Supernatural History TV, where today we'll be continuing our conversation on the four horsemen of the apocalypse, unveiling the secrets of the Black Horseman, mythology, history, and the end of the world.
When he broke the third seal, I heard the third living creature saying, "Come." I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand.
We have already discussed the first two horsemen of the apocalypse, the first being the white horseman set for conquest, and the identity of who that horseman could be. The red horseman is the second seal of the apocalypse that brings war upon the earth. If you'd like to learn more about the first two horsemen of the apocalypse, then check out the hidden truth, the white horseman of the apocalypse and the red horseman of the apocalypse. The Black Horseman is best described as riding a pitch black horse, holding up a pair of scales that symbolize famine and plague. As the Black Horseman descends, it speaks aloud, saying,
And I heard something like a voice in the center of the four living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, but do not damage the oil and the wine."
In Revelations, the four horsemen bringers of the apocalypse and the coming of Jesus Christ, the Black Horseman, according to the text, must descend to the earth to create famine and plague all over the world. The possible identity of the Black Horseman dates farther back than one might think. We will discuss a few gods that wave famine, plague, and death. One of the earliest accounts of a deity that causes plagues and famine is a demon from the Assyrian and Babylonian mythology called Pazuzu, who blows winds westward, bringing the locusts. The demon called Pazuzu is an ancient being that caused fear among the ancient people for the power that it had and could cause, not including the appearance of this creature, which is described as being a winged, beastly monster. The ancient people feared this demon due to its power to bring strong winds that would also bring in hordes of locusts. The locusts would eat and destroy all the farms and crops, creating massive famine in the region. The Norse goddess of Helheim, Hel. In the 13th century, an Icelandic historian, Snorri Sturluson, explained that in the Prose Edda, Hel, a Norse goddess, had the ability to create famine and bring death. How does she relate to the Black Horseman? Well, let's take a look. Hel is one of the possible entities leading the wild hunt in Norse mythology and is closely relates with other Germanic tribes. Further, Hel lives in Helheim, where she eats from a dish called hunger with a knife called famine. Hel is described in this way because there is no amount of food that will be able to fill the stomachs of the dead. The dish and knife could represent the balancing of the scales. The Greek deity Limos. Limos is the child of Eris, better known as Discord, and the deity responsible for famine and starvation. According to the Roman poet Virgil, Limos is one of the main sentinels that guards the gate of the underworld. Some scholars suggest that Limos is somehow connected to the Black Horseman. Throughout history, there are many deities, gods, and demons causing famine and plagues. Is it possible one of these beings has influenced John when writing about the Black Horseman? Has the Black Horseman already been released upon the world? It is possible to think of the many possible famines throughout the world, but the most notable and convincing argument is that the horsemen are used by God to bring wrath and destruction when needed. This is seen in Exodus, where God sends 10 plagues unto Egypt. It is possible to assume that each of these plagues is a being that is unleashing apocalyptic style plagues that one would assume would happen in Revelations. Starting with the 5th plague from Exodus.
For if you refuse to let them go and persist in holding them, the hand of the Lord will strike your livestock in the field, your horses, donkeys, camels, herds, and flocks, with a very severe pestilence.
This is also seen in the next plague that was unleashed upon the Egyptians, the boils.
It will turn into fine dust over the whole land of Egypt and cause festering boils on human being and beast alike throughout the land of Egypt.
It is possible to assume that these plagues are from a horseman, deity, or even an angel that causes destruction. The plagues don't stop but continue with the 8th plague, which is the locust, which creates famine.
For if you refuse to let my people go, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your territory. They will cover the surface of the earth, so that the earth itself will not be visible. They will eat up the remnant you saved undamaged from the hail, as well as all the trees that are growing in your fields.
The locust swarm would end when they were tossed by a strong wind from the west that hurled them into the water. This is just one account in the Bible where famine and plague were destructive. Throughout history, there has been famine and plagues that killed and destroyed many civilizations, such as the Black Death. Throughout the Bible, one could assume that God uses the four horsemen not just for revelations, but for punishment and last resorts when all else fails. Is it possible to assume that the four horsemen already have been to the earth more than once? Throughout history, there has been deities and gods that cause famine and plague that continue today, that cause many to assume the time is nigh. Is it though? Is it a coincidence that the demon Pazuzu, using the wind to push the locust westward, similar to God getting rid of the locust with a strong wind going west? Could God be using demons to enact judgment? Leave your comments in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe and stay in tune for more Supernatural History TV.